Hey everyone, this video is going to be part 1 of my Fighter Jester kind of cosplay tutorial. Fighter Jester is a design created by Aaron Angiolini, and they designed Jester, as well as most of the other Critical Role characters, as completely different classes than what they normally are in the campaign. Aaron did a phenomenal job of capturing the very essence of Jester in an entirely new class, and I really wanted to do the cosplay. A friend of mine was very kind and invited me to a group that is currently working on creating all of the different What If characters, or as many as we can, as actual cosplays. And it's been a lot of fun. It was something I've never done before, and so this is just kind of my little tiny portion of contribution to this. Just a disclaimer, this cosplay is not 100% accurate. I am very much more in the vein of capturing the cosplay as best as I can, and then changing things either to fit myself better or just if I don't feel like working on it. I'm not a stickler for perfection due to time, energy, and monetary constraints, so this is my interpretation of Aaron's design. Without further ado, this is how I created the armor portion of my cosplay. The first thing that I did once I was looking at the reference image was figure out how much I had to make my own patterns for and what I could use that I already had laying around. I realized that for the majority of the armor, as long as I was okay with not making everything 100% accurate, I could use the Night Peach patterns from Kinpatsu Cosplay and then use the elbow patterns that came from Kamui Cosplay's Bracer Pack. The only patterns that I would actually need to make myself would be the ones that were for the unicorn heads. For all my phone projects, I just use really cheap floor mats that you can get off Amazon or like at Home Depot or something. They're just the floor mats that are used in automotive shops, but they're equivalent to about 4 to 5 millimeter foam. And then for all my details, I do 2 millimeter craft foam. Once I had all of my pieces cut out in terms of like the pattern pieces, I began tracing them out on my floor mat and then cutting them out and creating all the base shapes for my armor. Since this isn't really the kind of tutorial that's like, this is how you make foam, I'm not going to go into the whole, like, this is how you make foam armor thing. I highly recommend checking out Kamui Cosplay's videos on that. The best place to learn is looking at the basics. For this, again, this is just kind of an overview of how I made the cosplay, so I'm not going to go into how I, like, attached all the pieces together. For the bracers, I actually wound up using 2 millimeter craft foam because I ran out of regular foam, so I layered a bunch of those pieces together, dremeled down the sides so that all 3 pieces were about the same length, and then I used the bevels to attach all the way around for the details. All of my armor is attached together with zippers because it's just the easiest way for me to attach anything. My husband has to help me put everything on. For the shoulders and the hip armor, I actually used silicone molds that I filled with foam clay in order to create the nice little fleur-de-lis patterns. These are great because all you have to do once you've created the little pieces is heat gun them to make them where you can like bend them a bit if you need to like bend them around a curved shape. And then you just use contact cement like you would for anything else. Hold it in place as it dries and as it begins to cool off because of the heat, and it will permanently mold shaped to the armor and stick. Now, if I were getting monetized, I already know I would be getting demonetized. Yes, all the different little ornaments that are on the breastplate are exactly what you think they are. I know. I'm going to tell you how to make them. Easiest way, create a template that you can use like a stencil, hold it over a piece of craft foam, spray paint a thin layer real quick of all the details, and then just keep moving down your craft foam and doing that. It made it so easy for me to just have a quick stencil. I used a box cutter and scissors later on to cut out all the shapes, and I didn't have to worry about hand tracing every single shape repeatedly. The shoes I purchased from Goodwill, they were very nice, and then trolls or something got a hold of them once they were at the house, and suddenly the shoe size changed and it was 2 right feet instead of an actual pair of shoes. I have since purchased good pairs of shoes that I will have to paint, but for now in this video you're seeing the older pair of shoes. They were black fabric shoes that I painted pink with fabric paint, attached Velcro onto so that I can mold my armor around it, and attach my armor to the shoe using the Velcro as well as like an elastic band to hold it around the back of the shoe. For most of my armor, once I had created the base, before I started adding official details, I did go around and cut out any kind of shapes I felt that it needed in order to fit the shape of Jester's armor a little bit better, especially with like the shoulders. I modified them just a tiny little bit so that they fit better for what I needed. But for the most part, I kept everything exactly like it was for Kenpatsu Cosplay's Night Peach. Once I had all the base shapes for my armor finished, I went ahead and started detailing them with different types of bevels that I had purchased. These are the Joann's Yaya Han cosplay bevels. Love them to bits. I would be seriously lost without them. For all my little tiny circle details, I use those little tiny stick-on pearls. Work really great. You can paint right over them, and the paint sticks to them really, really well. For the horse heads, I used a Pepakura pattern that I found on Etsy that I was able to use part of to create the half horse head unicorn shoulders. I turned it into a EVA foam pattern, which is really easy. You basically just construct your entire Pepakura file, mark all the places that you need for what you're doing. So in this case, I needed only half the horse head, drew around all the areas that I needed, marked lines for where joints were, and then added your little cross hatching so you knew exactly like how all the pieces would line up when you start to put it together again, and then cut it all out, trace it on your foam, hot glue it together. For these, I specifically used hot glue instead of contact cement, just because it didn't matter what they looked like, and I wanted them together really quickly so I could double check the shape. Once they were done and hot glued together, I used Orbla to cover them completely to make them stiffer and rigid, because I was worried that as foam they wouldn't be able to hold the shape that I needed without being kind of a pain putting together. So I wanted to make this as easy for me as possible, because I was way out of my comfort zone in terms of like what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing. The details that were added on top, the little tiny unicorn horn and the gem, were 3D printed, and then I used epoxy to glue them down permanently. Those things are not coming off anytime soon. I made the exact same unicorn horns for the crown piece and used scrap Warbler to wrap the crown, and then just attach the horns down into it and wrap a little bit of the Warbler around like the individual unicorn horns. Same thing. Those things are not coming off. Like, they will break before they come out of that Warbler, but hey, it works. To attach my shoulders to the armor and my shoulder pieces together, I use a super heavy duty Velcro. Really great stuff. I'll link it down below. I highly recommend it. Once I had all the attachments done, all the details added, I primed everything with Plasti Dip, and then I used a gold or pink spray paint to use as my primer. From there, I used just your basic acrylic paint to paint everything. I'm not fancy. I don't have an airbrush. I wish I did. But right now, I am using acrylic paint. It works really well. This is probably what took the longest outside of the details that I put onto the breastplate itself, only because the gold specifically takes a lot of layers to really make it pop, so it took a long time, and even with a fan running, it was really difficult to get the stuff to dry in time. In order to attach the hip armor, I didn't want to have it permanently attached to the skirt or even with Velcro. I actually used clear bra straps to attach it from the hip all the way up to the shirt that I was wearing, and it works really, really well. I recommend it. The hand armor is permanently attached to the gloves with hot glue. Works really well, and it's super durable. I haven't had any issues with the stuff trying to fall off or anything. I recommend for all hand pieces to directly hot glue it onto your glove. Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below in the comments. Again, thank you so much to Erin and the entire What If group for being so supportive and so helpful for any questions that I had, and honestly just being there to nerd out and talk to. Be sure to check out my socials linked below if you want to see any other photos and videos that I've done of my Fighter Jester, as well as other cosplays. I'm also going to be linking as many of the What If crew down below as well that I either have their socials for, and especially the ones that have already finished their cosplays, because I really, really want all of you to see it. Be sure to click the bell to be notified when I post again, because YouTube is weird about that kind of stuff. And for my next video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I made all the fabric portions of this cosplay as someone who hates sewing completely and tries my hardest not to ever do anything with sewing. So, but thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.